In celebration of Black History Month, we would like to give you a special welcome to our Anne Arundel County Black History Month tour. We are excited to share with you the stories of notable Black men and women who have not only made strides in the Anne Arundel County community, but in the nation. This video is intended to educate you on notable members of the Black community. However, we encourage you not to let your education of Black history end here. Go out and witness some of these sites for yourself. Learn the history of notable Black figures of your own community. And last but not least, learn how you can serve and get involved in your own community. Sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy. The Aris T. Allen Bus. Aris T. Allen, born in Beeville, Texas, in 1910, worked small jobs before hitchhiking to Washington, D.C. during the Depression. At the age of 27, he earned a high school diploma and worked his way through Howard University and its medical school. Following his graduation, he moved to Annapolis, where he opened his own practice. He was denied hospital privileges at Anne Arundel General Hospital, where he later became the Chief of Staff. He also served as House Delegate in Maryland and was elected as the first Black chairman of the Republican Party, while also running for lieutenant governor. In 1980, he served as secretary of the Republican National Convention under President Reagan. He served on the boards of the YMCA, the Salvation Army, the Community Chest of Anne Arundel County, the Red Cross, the Annapolis Chamber of Commerce, and the Annapolis chapter of the American Cancer Society. He was a life member of the NAACP, a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated through the Eta Eta Lambda chapter, and was member of the Board of Stewards for his church, Mount Moriah. The Dr. Martin Luther King Foot Soldiers Memorial, the first U.S. civic memorial monument dedicated to the 250,000 foot soldiers of the 1963 March, the ordinary citizens who risked the threat of personal harm to magnify the impact of the words of the civil rights leader who spoke that day in Washington. It was unveiled in Whitmore Park on August 28, 2013, the 50th anniversary of the march in Washington. The names of more than 500 foot soldiers are now engraved on 2.5 tons of solid Black granite. The foot soldiers that are honored on that memorial come not only from Annapolis, but from all over Maryland, as well as other parts of the United States. These men and women played an important role in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Banneker Douglas Museum. Named after both scholar Benjamin Banneker and activist Frederick Douglass, the museum is dedicated to preserving Maryland's African American heritage. Located at 84 Franklin Street in historic Annapolis, the museum is housed in the old Mount Moriah AME Church. The church building was constructed in 1875 and remodeled in 1896. Eventually, the building was leased to the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, becoming the state's official museum for African American history and culture. In 1984, a 2.5-story addition was added when the building opened as the Banneker Douglas Museum. The contributions of famous African American Maryland residents are highlighted, including those of Banneker, Douglas, James Pennington, Harriet Tubman, Matthew Henson, and Thurgood Marshall. The Universal Masonic Hall, number 14, better known as the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge, is located in Annapolis, Maryland. The building was constructed in the year of 1880 and was later purchased by African American civilian employees of the United States Naval Academy in the 1940s. This group of African American employees founded their group, the Prince Hall Lodge, in 1865. This location quickly became a regular meeting hall for the lodge. It is one of the oldest lodges in Maryland, earning it the right to be listed in the National Register of Historic Places in 2008. Within the report recommending for the location to be listed within the Register of Historic Places, it was noted that the members of the lodge included many of the most prominent citizens of Annapolis. The Prince Hall Masonic Lodge played a key role in the development of African American social life within Anne Arundel County. The Black Lives Matter Memorial. Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old African American woman, was fatally shot in her Louisville, Kentucky apartment on March 13, 2020. when white plainclothes officers forced entry into the apartment as an investigation into drug dealing operations. Breonna's boyfriend, Kenneth Taylor, believed the police officers were intruders and fired a warning shot at the officers. The officers fired 32 shots in return. Walker was unhurt, but Taylor was hit by 6 bullets and died. Search of the house resulted in no drugs being present in the home. Breonna Taylor's death was one of many unjust deaths caused by the police. Her death sparked protests and riots around the world. In recognition of her unjust death and in honor of her legacy, a mural was painted in Chambers Park. This vast, impressive, and well thought out mural was painted by several art and culture groups. Her story lives on through this mural, and she will never be forgotten. The Kunta Kinte Alex Haley Memorial, inspired by both the main character and the author of the critically acclaimed novel, Roots. The statue memorial is located at Annapolis City Dock, formerly the site of a major port and market for enslaved Africans. The memorial portrays in word and symbol the triumph of the human spirit in very difficult times and conveys Haley's vision for national, racial reconciliation and healing. It also stresses the importance of maintaining long and strong family connections and of preserving and honoring one's family history and cultural heritage. The memorial is dedicated especially to all African ancestors whose names, unlike Kunta Kinte's, are lost forever in the oceans of time. The Martin Luther King Jr. statue, located at Anne Arundel Community College, was erected in 2006 by several community organizations at the college. The organizations at this college saw Martin Luther King Jr.'s accomplishments as something worth more recognition within the state. Prior to this statue, Maryland had no official recognition of MLK. It wasn't until the year of 2006 that Martin Luther King Jr. would receive official recognition within the state of Maryland. An artist by the name of Ed Dwight, who happened to also create the Alex Haley, was asked to create this MLK memorial. Ed Dwight made a promise to ensure that the statue would be educational in nature and more than just another statue in the middle of a college campus. This statue serves as a reminder to all who lay eyes on it that the fight for civil rights led by Martin Luther King Jr. was one of great progress, yet African Americans are not finished with this fight. This statue is a constant reminder to continue pressing forward in the fight for civil rights. Dean Street. In 1980, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funded a project to build townhouses in the block between what is now City Gate Lane and Dean Street. Evacuation of the townhouse basements disturbed a portion of what was later identified as a 19th century African American family cemetery. As well, 20th Dean Street was the original meeting place for the prayer group that became the Congregation for the Church of Christ, now known as Christ is the Answer Deliverance Center. Thurgood Marshall was one of this century's foremost leaders in the struggle for equal rights under the law. A native of Baltimore, Marshall graduated from Frederick Douglass High School in Baltimore and Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. He earned his law degree from Howard University in Washington, D.C., where he first met the great civil rights lawyer, Charles Houston. After earning his law degree, Marshall returned to Baltimore and began his long association with the NAACP. In 1967, Marshall became the first African American to be appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Unveiled in 1996 at the Lawyers Mall at State House Square, this statue memorial is erected on the site of the Old Court of Appeals, where Marshall argued some of his early civil rights cases. The tribute to the owner of Chick and Roots. Main Street in Annapolis is one of the busiest streets in the heart of Annapolis. Surprisingly, there have not been any black owners on Main Street since the 20th century. Through the purchase of Chick and Ruth's Deli in 2017, Keith Jones broke this well overdue dilemma by becoming the first black owner of a business on Main Street since the early 1900s.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate each person watching this video for taking the time out of their day to further their own personal knowledge of the African American history within Anne Arundel County. Black History Month is meant to remind people in the United States that there is much more history regarding African Americans than slavery. This month is meant to highlight the accomplishments of a race of people who began with nothing yet still achieved the highest levels of accomplishment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We highly encourage each person who has endeavored to watch this video to delve deeper into the African American history that surrounds them wherever they may be. In the comment section below, you will find links that will guide you to further information about the locations, monuments, and memorials discussed in this video. Have a happy and very blessed Black History Month.